like we're desperately seeking a reason to sell off here, but do you agree now is the time perhaps to adjust risk and pare back a bit?
I think that it's a great time to adjust for risk levels where they ought to be. I don't think that there's a particular catalyst right here that warrants a drastic movement, but I think it's a good time for investors to consider their risk levels where they want them to be and perhaps find that right balance if they maybe are off target a bit.
What's the right allocation model right now? How much do you want to be in U.S. equities versus Europe versus the emerging markets, and how much do you want to be in credit?
Well, on the equity side first, we're a little bit out of consensus on this. We actually are a 0% weighting in Europe and Japan. So the international developed, we believe that there's ample room for those stocks to go higher, but not in any scenario that would leave U.S. or emerging markets behind. So we think we can get the same equity position and forward movement without the same degree of systemic risk. On the emerging market side, we can have a lower position and get a higher growth move with a much more attractive valuation. We don't see EM as a currency play. We think there's some tremendous value in what is happening on a bottom-up basis in a lot of emerging markets. That's our perspective.
So talk to me about the systemic risk then that you still see in Europe, and what you're saying is, look, we can get the bang for the buck in US equities, for example, equally as we can see Europe, and yet there's so many voices out there that say on a valuation basis, Europe's the place to be.
And their argument all comes down to one basic line of reasoning, and that is that the US equities have moved so much and European equities have so much more to move to catch up. That presupposes that they need to go end up at the same place. They don't, and in fact, they won't. The reason is that Europe still has to do something the U.S. already did, significant deleveraging. Their sovereign sector has been re-leveraging, which is why they have actually been able to kind of live to fight another day. But in fact, what we know is that they now face an inevitable need to un-QE what Draghi's been doing, and they have not solved for any of the real factors from Italy, Spain in particular. France concerns us a little, but we think there's a systemic debt risk. We don't know how far out it is. They've kicked the can very well so far, but to us, it's just top down. Why go there when we think there's a lot of bottom-up stories elsewhere?